You weren't supposed to see those. My father snatched the bank statements from my trembling hands, his face draining of color. I stood frozen in my mother's home office, surrounded by the half-unpacked boxes of her belongings, the grief of her funeral still raw in my chest. Dad, why was I sending money to Aunt Karen's mortgage for 5 years? My voice cracked. I thought I was helping Mom with her medical bills. He wouldn't meet my eyes, stuffing the papers into a folder. Your mother had her reasons. Let's respect her wishes and not dig into this right now. But the numbers were burned into my brain. $1,750 every month for 5 years. Over $100,000 of my nursing salary gone, money I could have used for the knee surgery I'd been postponing, for a down payment on a home instead of my cramped apartment. All while my aunt drove a new Lexus and renovated her kitchen. I'm calling a family dinner, I said, my phone already in hand. Tonight. Everyone needs to be there. Dad grabbed my wrist. Emily, please. Your mother just died. This isn't the time. That's exactly why it is the time. I pulled away, pain and betrayal crystallizing into something harder. Before everything gets swept under the rug like it always does in this family. 3 hours later, I stood in my mother's kitchen, now my father's alone, laying out plates for the family dinner I'd demanded. My hands shook slightly as I arranged silverware, the familiar weight of being the peacekeeper, the good daughter, pressing down on my shoulders. But tonight would be different. Aunt Karen arrived first with her husband and their children, my cousins Brian and Megan. She hugged me tightly, her expensive perfume choking me. How are you holding up, sweetie? She asked, her voice dripping with the rehearsed sympathy I'd heard all week at the funeral. We're all just devastated about Claire. I nodded stiffly, accepting the casserole dish she thrust into my hands. Thanks for coming on such short notice. My brother Aaron slipped in through the back door as everyone settled in the living room. He caught my eye and quickly looked away, heading straight for our father. They huddled in the corner, speaking in hushed tones that stopped abruptly when I approached. Dinner's ready, I announced, leading everyone to the dining room. My mother's absence at the head of the table felt like a physical wound. We made it through the main course with bland small talk about the funeral service, about how Claire would have appreciated all the flowers, about how we need to support each other in this difficult time. My stomach churned with each platitude, each moment of forced normalcy, while the bank statements burned a hole in my pocket. As my father stood to clear the plates before dessert, I placed my hand on the table and said, I found something today while organizing Mom's office. The room went still. My father froze, plates in hand. Emily, he warned. I pulled out the statements and laid them on the table. For 5 years, I've been transferring money to what I thought was Mom's medical account. Almost $2,000 every month from my salary. I looked directly at my aunt. But it wasn't going to Mom's medical bills. It was paying your mortgage, Aunt Karen. Aunt Karen's face flushed red. I don't know what you're talking about. The account number matches your mortgage. I found the mortgage statement in Mom's files with your name and account number. Just to be sure, I called the bank using Mom's account credentials. The customer service rep confirmed all the transfers. Claire wanted to help us, she said quickly. After Robert lost his job. Uncle Robert has been working at his firm for 10 years, I cut in. I checked LinkedIn today. He never lost his job. The silence in the room was deafening. My cousins looked confused. My father looked defeated. But Aaron, my brother's face showed something else entirely. Guilt. You knew, I said, the realization hitting me like a physical blow. Aaron, you knew about this? He swallowed hard. Mom asked me not to tell you. Asked? Or did you help her set it up? The betrayal cut deeper than I thought possible. Did you help her trick me into paying Aunt Karen's mortgage while I put off my own medical care? It wasn't like that, Aaron insisted, but his eyes darted to our father for help. Your mother wanted to help her sister, Dad finally said. Karen was in a tough spot. Then why didn't Mom help her with your money? I demanded. Why mine? Without even telling me. No one had an answer. My cousins stared at their plates. Uncle Robert studied his wine glass with sudden interest. "I want it back," I said into the silence. "All of it." Aunt Karen laughed, actually laughed, a short, sharp sound. "Don't be ridiculous, Emily. That money is long gone. We can't just." "Then sell the house," I said, surprising myself with my steadiness. "The house my money paid for." "Now you're being hysterical," my aunt snapped. "This is exactly why Claire didn't tell you. She knew you'd overreact." Overreact? To having over $100,000 stolen from me. "It wasn't stolen," my father cut in sharply. "Your mother made a decision to help family. You should respect that, especially now that she's gone." The words hit me like a slap. I looked around the table at their faces, defensive, embarrassed, but not remorseful. Not a single person was on my side. "So that's it?" I asked quietly. "You all knew my mother was using my money without my knowledge, and none of you thought that was wrong." Aaron shifted uncomfortably. It's not black and white. Mom did what she thought was best for everyone. For everyone except me." I stood up, my chair scraping loudly against the floor. "I think you should all leave. This is your father's house," Aunt Karen said coldly. "And I'm his daughter," I replied, "who just found out her entire family has been lying to her for years." Dad put his hand on my shoulder. "Emily, please. Your mother would want us to stay united as a family, especially now." I shrugged his hand away. "Don't tell me what Mom would want. None of you knew her as well as you thought if you believe she'd want this." As I turned to leave, Aunt Karen called after me. "We're family, Emily. Family stands together no matter what. Your mother understood that." I paused at the doorway, looking back at them, my family, suddenly strangers. "Family doesn't steal from each other," I said. "And family doesn't use a dead woman as a shield for their own greed." I spent that night in my car, parked outside my apartment building, too restless to go inside. My phone buzzed constantly with messages from my father and Aaron, pleased to talk, to understand, to forgive for Mom's sake. Nothing from Aunt Karen. Around midnight, a text came through from my cousin Megan. I had no idea. "I'm so sorry, Emily." It was small comfort, but it was something. At least one person in my family hadn't been part of the conspiracy. The next morning, I called in sick to the hospital where I worked. For the first time in my nursing career, I couldn't face other people's problems when my own were crushing me. I drove back to my parents' house, my father's house, determined to get answers. The house was quiet when I let myself in with my key. Dad's car wasn't in the driveway. I headed straight for my mother's office and began methodically going through every drawer, every file folder. 2 hours later, I sat cross-legged on the floor surrounded by bank statements, letters, and a small ledger in my mother's handwriting. The picture they painted made me sick to my stomach. It wasn't just Aunt Karen. My mother had been managing a complex web of financial arrangements within our extended family for years. Aaron had received money for a down payment on his house. Cousins had college funds. And Karen's mortgage was just one piece of a larger puzzle. And all of it, every single dollar, had come from my accounts. "What are you doing?" I looked up to see my father standing in the doorway, his face gray with fatigue. "Learning the truth," I said, holding up the ledger. "Why, Dad? Why was it always my money?" He sank heavily into my mother's desk chair. "Your mother thought. She believed you were the only one who could afford it. I'm a nurse. Aaron makes 3 times my salary in tech, but you've always been the responsible one, the one who saves." His eyes pleaded with me. "Your brother has always struggled with money, you know that. And you've never been interested in material things, so your mother thought that she could just take from me without asking?" My voice rose. "That my money wasn't as important because I'm frugal? Because I was saving for my future." Dad looked down at his hands. "She wanted to help everyone. With my money. Not hers, not yours. Mine." I flipped through the ledger. "She took out a loan in my name, Dad. Did you know that? For Brian's college fund. There's $20,000 of debt in my name that I never signed for." His silence was answer enough. How did she even access my accounts? My personal banking information? He wouldn't meet my eyes. You gave her your passwords years ago, when you were sick with pneumonia. Remember? So she could pay your bills while you were in the hospital. I did remember. I'd been so ill, could barely breathe, and my mother had offered to handle everything until I recovered. I'd given her access without a second thought, because she was my mother, and mothers protected their children. They didn't steal from them. And she never removed herself from my accounts. The violation felt physical, like hands around my throat. 5 years, Dad. 5 years she's been doing this, and you knew. Aaron knew. The whole family knew except me. She was going to tell you, he said weakly. After Karen's mortgage was paid off, she had a plan to pay you back. I held up a letter dated just 3 weeks before my mother's sudden heart attack. It was from a second mortgage company, confirming a new loan on Aunt Karen's house, a house that should have been almost paid off with my money. Really? Because it looks like Aunt Karen just took out a second mortgage. She was never going to pay anyone back. Dad's face crumpled. Your mother didn't know about that. It doesn't matter. She still took my money without asking. You all did. I gathered the papers into a neat stack. I'm taking these to a lawyer tomorrow. Emily, no. My father stood up, suddenly animated. You can't do that to the family. Think of what it would do to your mother's memory. My mother's memory is already ruined for me, I said, the truth of it hitting me fully for the first time. The woman I thought she was would never have done this. She loved you, Dad insisted. Everything she did was out of love for this family. Love doesn't steal from people, Dad. Love doesn't lie for years. I stood up, clutching the evidence to my chest. And if you really loved me, you would have stopped her. The lawyer's office was sterile and cold, with leather chairs and diplomas covering the walls. Patricia Lowenstein listened without interruption as I laid out the story, my voice steady despite the turmoil inside me. When I finished, she adjusted her glasses and looked at me carefully. You have a strong case for fraud, possibly identity theft with the unauthorized loan. But I have to ask, are you sure you want to pursue this against your family? Especially so soon after your mother's death. It was the same question I'd been asking myself all night. I don't know, I admitted, but I need to understand my options. She nodded, respecting my honesty. We could start with a demand letter. No court filing yet, just a formal request for repayment and a clear timeline. Sometimes that's enough to resolve these situations. And if it's not, then we escalate. But family lawsuits get ugly quickly, Ms. Chen. Very ugly. I left her office with a plan to send demand letters, but my heart wasn't fully committed. In the parking garage, I sat in my car and finally allowed myself to cry for my mother, for the betrayal, for the family that now felt irreparably broken. My phone rang. Megan. I answered on the third ring. Hey, she said softly. How are you holding up? Not great. I wiped my eyes. Have you talked to your mom? That's why I'm calling. She sounded nervous. They're all at Grandpa's house right now. There's some kind of family meeting about you. My stomach dropped. About me. Dad said they need to present a united front against your accusations. I could hear the disgust in her voice. It's wrong, Emily. What they did to you is wrong. Something inside me hardened. What time did this meeting start? About an hour ago. I refuse to go. Thank you for telling me, Megan. What are you going to do? I started my car. I'm going to crash a party. My grandfather's house was a colonial-style home on the outskirts of the city, where our family had gathered for holidays my entire life. Today, it felt like I was approaching enemy territory. I recognized all the cars in the driveway, my father's sedan, Aaron's Tesla, Aunt Karen's Lexus, and several others belonging to extended family. I didn't bother knocking. This house had been my safe haven growing up. I wasn't going to start acting like a stranger now. The voices from the living room stopped abruptly when I walked in. 12 faces turned to stare at me, my father, brother, aunt and uncle, cousins, and other relatives who apparently had also benefited from my unwitting generosity. Emily, my grandfather said, rising from his armchair. At 82, he was still imposing, the family patriarch. We weren't expecting you. Clearly. I remained standing in the doorway. I hear you're having a meeting about me. Thought I should be present. And Karen's face flushed with anger. This is a private family discussion. About family funds, I replied coolly. Specifically, my funds. You've upset everyone with these wild accusations, Uncle Robert said. Your mother was trying to help the family, and now you're threatening lawyers? So they knew about my visit to the attorney. News traveled fast. They're not accusations if I have proof, I said. And yes, I've consulted an attorney because what happened is fraud. Possibly criminal fraud. You would send your own family to jail? Aaron looked genuinely shocked. After everything Mom did for you? The hypocrisy was breathtaking. What exactly did Mom do for me, Aaron? Besides taking my money to give to everyone else. She raised you, and Karen snapped. Put a roof over your head, food in your mouth. You owe her everything. I paid that debt many times over, I said, my voice rising despite my best efforts to stay calm. $105,000 over 5 years. Plus a fraudulent loan I'm still paying interest on. We're trying to find a solution, my father interjected, ever the peacemaker. If you'd just been patient instead of running to lawyers. Patient? I laughed, a harsh sound that surprised even me. I've been patient for 5 years while everyone in this room has been lying to my face. I'm done with patience. My grandfather thumped his cane on the floor. Enough. Sit down, Emily. All of you sit down. We're going to discuss this like family. I stayed where I was. I'm not interested in a discussion that started without me. I came to make one thing clear. I want my money back. All of it. I've calculated the exact amounts each of you received from my accounts. I pulled a folder from my bag and placed it on the coffee table. You have 2 weeks to arrange repayment plans with me directly. After that, my lawyer takes over and we add legal fees to what you owe. The room erupted in protests. 2 weeks. Impossible. You can't expect. Mom would be ashamed of you, Aaron said, his voice cutting through the chaos. Tearing the family apart over money. Something snapped inside me. Don't you dare speak for her. Every person in this room betrayed me, including Mom. Especially Mom. She knew I was putting off knee surgery I needed because I couldn't afford the deductible and time off work. She watched me live in pain while she gave my money to all of you. It wasn't like that, my father protested weakly. It was exactly like that. I was trembling now. Did any of you ever wonder why I never bought a house? Why I drive a 12-year-old car? Why I pick up extra shifts constantly? Or did you just think, good old Emily, so responsible, so frugal? The silence that followed told me everything I needed to know. I looked around at their faces, family I'd trusted my entire life, and felt a sudden wave of doubt. Was I really ready to tear apart these relationships, to potentially never speak to some of these people again? For a moment, I could almost hear my mother's voice urging family harmony above all. But then I remembered the years of deception, the knee pain I'd endured while my aunt renovated her kitchen, the student loans I was still paying while Aaron had received a free down payment. 2 weeks, I repeated, my voice stronger as I turned to leave. I suggest you all start selling things. Like that Lexus, and Karen. And that vacation home in Aspen, Aaron. This will destroy the family, my grandfather said, his voice cracking with age and emotion. I paused at the door. The family was destroyed the moment you all decided my money was yours to take. I expected anger after my ultimatum. I expected pleas and manipulative tactics. What I didn't expect was Aunt Karen showing up at my apartment the next evening with a small wooden box. Can I come in? She asked, her usual confidence dimmed. Against my better judgment, I stepped aside to let her enter. If this is about extending the deadline. It's not. She placed the box on my kitchen counter. Your mother left this for you. She made me promise to give it to you if you ever found out about the arrangements. I stared at the box. It was my mother's jewelry box, the one that had sat on her dresser my entire life. You should have led with this at the dinner, I said. I was going to. Then you started talking about lawyers and selling houses. She shrugged. I panicked. I opened the box carefully. Inside was a letter in my mother's handwriting, along with her engagement ring and wedding band. I'll give you privacy, Aunt Karen said, moving toward the door. But Emily, we're not all monsters. Your mother truly thought she was doing the right thing. After she left, I sat on my sofa with the letter in my trembling hands, uncertain if I wanted to read my mother's justifications. Finally, I unfolded the pages. My dearest Emily, if you're reading this, then I'm gone and you've discovered what I've done. First, I want to say I'm sorry. Not for helping our family, but for doing it in a way that betrayed your trust. I grew up watching my parents struggle financially, with no one to help them. I swore I would never let that happen to anyone in our family if I could prevent it. When Karen's husband lost his job, yes, it was real. Despite what LinkedIn says, he works at the same company, but had to take a significant demotion when Aaron's wife needed fertility treatments their insurance wouldn't cover. When your cousins needed education funds, I couldn't say no. But your father and I had already leveraged everything we had. The only person in the family with savings was you. My responsible, beautiful daughter who always did the right thing, who always helped others. I told myself it was temporary, that I would pay you back before you needed the money for your own life. I convinced myself you wouldn't miss what you didn't know was gone. But one emergency led to another, and the temporary solution became permanent. I know you're probably furious reading this. I would be too. In all honesty, I thought you wouldn't notice the money missing because you've always been so focused on your work rather than material things. I told myself that made it okay somehow. I was wrong, and I took advantage of your trust and your generous nature. There's no justification for what I did, only explanations that now seem hollow even to me. I know this doesn't excuse what I did. Enclosed you'll find my wedding rings, the only things of real value I have left to give you. Sell them. They should cover at least part of what I took from you. Also in this box is a letter for Karen. Please give it to her. It contains instructions I know she won't like, but that she'll follow because it was my final request. I love you, Emily. I hope someday you can forgive me, even if you can never forget what I did. All my love. Mom. With shaking hands, I found the second letter, addressed to my aunt. I knew I shouldn't read it, but after everything that had happened, I needed to know. Karen, if Emily is reading my first letter, then you know what you must do. Sell the house. Yes, all of it. Use the proceeds to repay Emily everything she is owed, plus interest. You and Robert can move into the condo in Oakwood that's in your name, only the one you think I don't know about. This is non-negotiable. You owe me, Karen, for all the times I covered for you with Dad, for the money I personally lent you before I started using Emily's accounts, for keeping your secrets all these years. I've never asked you to repay any of that, but now I'm asking you to do right by my daughter. Remember also that I still have the original documents from when you borrowed against Dad's property without his knowledge. He never needed to know, but Emily might find that information relevant if you refuse to cooperate. I love you, sister, but Emily deserves justice. Make this right. Claire. I sat stunned, the letters clutched in my hands. My mother had known. She'd left a contingency plan. She'd still betrayed me, still taken what wasn't hers to take, but she'd tried, in her own way, to make it right. The next morning, I drove to my father's house and found him sitting alone at the kitchen table, looking older than I'd ever seen him. I read Mom's letter, I said, sitting across from him. He nodded. Karen told me she gave it to you. Did it help at all? It doesn't change what happened, I said honestly, but it helps to know she recognized it was wrong. She was going to tell you everything. His eyes filled with tears. After Karen's house was paid off, she had a whole plan to make it right, but she died before she could. I reached across the table and took his hand. Dad, why didn't you stop her? You had to know it was wrong. He looked down at our joined hands. Your mother was the strongest person I've ever known. She managed our family, made all the hard decisions. I just followed her lead. His voice broke. I failed you both by not speaking up. We sat in silence for a long moment. I'm selling the house, he finally said. It's too big for just me anyway. Between that and your mother's life insurance, I should be able to repay everything she took from you. Dad, no. Yes, he said firmly. It's the right thing to do. Where will you live? I've been thinking about one of those retirement communities. The one near the lake where we used to take you kids fishing. He attempted a smile. A fresh start might be good. What about everyone else? Aunt Karen, Aaron. They'll have to figure it out themselves. Your aunt has more resources than she lets on. Your mother knew all her secrets. And your brother. He sighed. Aaron needs to learn some hard lessons about money and responsibility. Lessons your mother and I should have taught him long ago. I felt the weight of the past week, the anger, the betrayal, the grief, shift slightly. I'm still talking to my lawyer tomorrow, I said. I need to address that fraudulent loan in my name. I already filed a dispute with the bank and sent them Mom's letter acknowledging she took it out without my permission. They're investigating, but said it could take 30 to 60 days before they reach a decision. He nodded. I understand. I'll provide whatever statements they need from me. I was there when she applied for it. I can confirm you weren't involved. As I stood to leave, he called after me, Emily, do you think you'll ever forgive her? Forgive us. I paused at the door, thinking of my mother's letter, of the family that had both raised me and betrayed me. I don't know, Dad. But I'm going to try. Not for Mom's sake, or for the family's sake. For mine. 3 months later, I stood on the porch of my new house, a small bungalow with a yard for gardening and enough space for a home office. I'd used the initial payment from my father to finally get my knee surgery, and the recovery had given me time to reflect on what I wanted for my future. Aunt Karen had listed her house for sale, as promised, but the process was dragging on. The appraisal came in lower than she'd hoped, and Uncle Robert had fought the sale at every turn until I'd shown him my mother's letter. I'd insisted on a formal repayment agreement, notarized and legally binding, with specific timelines and consequences. The first installment had arrived on schedule, at least. My phone buzzed with a text from Megan, confirming our dinner plans. She'd been my rock through everything, helping me stand firm when Aunt Karen initially tried to negotiate selling only part of the house, until I mentioned the documents Mom had referenced about Grandpa's property, which immediately changed her tune. Aaron and I were still barely speaking. He'd taken a loan to repay me, but made it clear he considered it blood money that was destroying the family. My father, true to his word, had sold the family home and moved to a lakeside retirement community where he seemed to be finding some peace. As for me, I was healing, physically and emotionally. The betrayal still stung, but it no longer consumed me. I'd learned painful lessons about trust and boundaries, even with family. Especially with family. I unlocked the door to my new home, pausing to appreciate the moment. This was mine, bought with my own money on my own terms. No secret deductions, no hidden agendas. Inside, on the mantel, sat my mother's jewelry box. I hadn't sold her rings after all. Despite everything, they were my last connection to her. The complex, flawed woman who had both loved me and betrayed me. Family ties weren't easily broken, I'd discovered. They could be stretched, strained, and damaged, but they remained altered but persisting. The question was whether those ties would heal stronger or remain forever weakened. Only time would tell. Was I wrong to demand my money back from my family after my mother's death? Should I have respected her wishes and let it go for the sake of family peace? What would you have done in my position?